to record this very first webinar of the Replacement Child Forum to share with other replacement children. Many, many people are checking into the website, about 500 a week. So we are very happy to share and exchange today, to ask our questions, and to share that knowledge with the others who cannot be with us today. Welcome, Andrea Sabadini. Lovely that you join us.
Nice to meet you. Sorry, I'm a bit late. I tried to connect and had difficulties with my Zoom connection, but here I am.
We have just opened the meeting, the first ever webinar. It's a global meeting, and it's a great pleasure that you join us. You are our honorary board member. You have written on the replacement child condition, and it is just wonderful that you could join us today.
I'm very honored to be here with you today. Yes, very good.
Fantastic. So I'm just explaining that we mute the microphone when we not speak, that we are celebrating 1 year on the Replacement Child Forum, that many of you have shared. Also Prophecy Coles, who just appears above you, has written on the replacement child condition, as has Melton. So here are many authors, many therapists, and many adult replacement children. And sometimes they are all three of these.
All right, all at the same time.
All at the same time. So we are recording this to put it onto the website, which is visited by about 500 people a week. And you have made it possible with your contributions. So you can ask questions. We hope we will get a great dialogue going. And if you prefer, you can ask questions through the chat function, which I shall check. I would love to have all of us meet. So I would like you in one sentence, say your name, your country, and why you are here, why this matters to you, what do you want, what would you wish for? So we could join together. We kind of want to share with you what Rita Battat, Andrea, it's Rita Battat, the author, not Rita Brody, it's the wrong name that appears, have been experiencing through our sharing. So if we could all introduce ourselves very briefly, that would be a lovely start to our meeting. Judy, maybe would you like to start?
Sure. Hi, everybody. This is so exciting to see you all. I have to say, it's so great to see all these replacement children in one place. I love it. I don't know if, so I'm one of the co-founders of Replacement Child Forum. I've written a book called Replacement Child, a Memoir, which is a while back now. My basic story is that I was a replacement for my sister who was killed in a plane crash. So that's my, nucleus of my story. I'm so happy to be here, really, and see all of you. And it's kind of amazing to me, just looking around. So thank you. And I just want to mention, if you don't know, excuse me, where the chat function is, it's at the bottom of your screen. And it's a little bubble. It looks like a cartoon bubble. It says chat. And when you click on that, a box comes up and you can direct a message to either everyone, or there's a little drop-down box that will go to others.
Good to see you.
That's great. That's great.
We are introducing ourselves, and we are starting with us three co-founders to welcome you all and say one sentence on our story and what we wish.
Okay, I'm a psychoanalyst.
Can you just wait 1 second, please? 1 moment. We are with Rita. Rita, can you speak?
Hi, everybody. I'm Rita Battat, and I'm using somebody else's computer, so it says Rita Brody, which is my cousin, so it's a little confusing. Welcome, everybody. It's very exciting to have people here from all over the world. I'm an author who wrote Replacement Children, the Unconscious Script, with my co-author, Dr. Abigail Brenner, who's a psychiatrist. She may come on later and join us. My story is that I was born 18 months after the death of a 14-year-old brother. And it was just something that he was always talked about in glowing terms. So he was never a full person to me. And because of that, there were a lot of issues that came up. And I always thought I was alone. And so it was really just amazing when I started to interview people for the book who all were replacement children and just kept seeing the same kinds of issues coming up over and over and realize that there's a big connection here, and I couldn't find anything to read on it. So I wrote a book. So
Thank you. Thank you, Rita. Maybe I should say half a sentence. I'm a replacement child born 6 months after my 2-year-old baby brother died from appendicitis. So my mother was pregnant with me. And it took me half a life to find out that this was of importance. And it took me 25 years to get to this point of consciousness. And I poured that into a book as well. So maybe the next person, if I do honor to you, Andrea, may I ask you to introduce yourself, as you have written extensively. You taught me before I got to this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. First of all, I must congratulate you and the other people who started this new venture, because I think it's really very, very important. And I'm sure it's already being very successful in the sense that many people seem to be able to benefit from the opportunity to share their experiences with one another. As to myself, I'm not, as far as I know, a replacement child myself, but I got interested in the topic, especially through the 5 times a week analytic work I did with a patient many years ago, who was clearly a replacement child. Her elder sister having died 9 months before she was born. So in other words, she was conceived immediately after her 9-month-old daughter had died. And I was very intrigued by the material that came up in relation to her life and because the symptoms she developed and the personality she developed as a result of her being a replacement child, and I wrote a paper about it, which is the one that Christina seemed to be interested in reading and commenting about. And apart from that, I've been thinking about the problem for a long time, of course, and I recently had the pleasure of reviewing Christina's own book in the British Journal of Psychotherapy. So that's about it. I'm a psychoanalyst myself, and I work as a psychoanalyst and as a supervisor of trainees.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Andrea. And you wrote also on the replacement child wife. You gave that to the forum. Hitchcock's Rebecca.
Yes. I mean, one of my main interests is films and the relationship between psychoanalysis and cinema. And so whenever I have an opportunity of writing about a film, I do so. And recently I wrote about Hitchcock's film Rebecca, and I used that opportunity to comment on Rebecca as a replacement wife in that case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe Erica. Erica is a board member also of the forum from the beginning.
I'm so honored. I'm even a bit emotional to meet everyone else. I have met 3 of you, and of course, it's my dear friend Rita Batat who introduced me. I'm a physician in New York, and I have like a double capacity. I am a child of 2 Holocaust survivors, and I'm a replacement child for all the miscarriages my mom had, who've been experimented in camp with, and a replacement, I guess, for everyone else that both of them have lost. I'm here because I have already met 3 amazing ladies, and I wanted to meet and be part of this forum and meet everybody with whom we have this thing in common, because for all intents and purposes, we are soulmates. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Next board member, maybe Patty Horn, would you like? Yes.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all so much for inviting me to participate in this. I've been part of Rita Batat's group of friends and colleagues that have been supportive of this, of all of this, and with the book that she and her partner wrote. My involvement as a replacement child is I never put it together that that's exactly what I am as well. But it took this book to teach me that I am that, and had me look inside of myself to see what that has affected me in my life, and the sort of issues or whatever I may have had do to come from the fact that my brother was born and died at 3 months old of a crib death prior to my birth. However, I was born very shortly thereafter. I think it was about a year. It was never spoken of very much in the family. My mother, I guess I knew, but it was always a secret that we didn't talk about. And so I grew up just knowing that there was this thing that happened. And of course, as time went on, it just folded into the pictures of life. I happened to have written my own memoir. And as I was beginning to think about things of my own life that had come up that were not that, it became really evident that certain issues that I may have experienced in life definitely are directly related to that. Anyway, I'm so happy to participate in this, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be of any help, support, enlightenment to anybody that might be in this position as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. What I will do now is, as you appear on the screen, I have here no preference, no hierarchy. I will just call on the next person who I see appearing on my screen to introduce yourself and maybe ask a question. What do you want? What would you like today? Maybe prophecy? You are next on my screen.
Well, I feel I'm the only phony here because I haven't written, well, actually I did write a book, a paper, but a long time ago on a replacement child, but I've not really thought about the problem at all. Mm-hmm. And I think, Christina, you got in touch with me asking me to join this forum because of some other work of mine. I'm not quite sure what it was, but I think you read my book on
siblings, and on you wrote on adoption. You shared with us that also adopted children can suffer from the same consequences.
So that's my interest recently has been on the adoption problems of being an adopted child, and the whole problem of being, as it were, the identity of who you are if you're an adopted child. And in some ways that does have similarities to being a replacement child. So I'm really interested to see if there are any ideas that we might profitably share together.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Gladys.
Psychoanalyst from Argentina. And I just love the idea of the replacement. And I believe that we live in replacements all our lives from a deep perspective, meaning that we are only and so much the replacements of the wishes of the people behind. So this is a topic that really amazes me. I love to think about it, and I'm very thankful to be invited to this forum because I think we're going to enjoy ourselves very much. So thank you.
Thank you. That is. For me, next appears Haiti.
Okay, I'm Haiti. I'm living in Bern, and I'm a colleague of Christina Schelinski, and her book gave me the last kick to really go deeper into the topic. I'm also a Jungian psychotherapist. for myself, the replacement child condition is very subtle, and I'm still finding out. I know I'm born after a miscarriage, and it's not so obvious in my life, but I feel many things. And I'm surrounded actually of people in my family, which I would say they are replacement children, like with adoption, a child who came after the death of a little brother, after miscarriages. So I'm kind of surrounded of it in my family. And of course, I met this in my practice when I was working with children or adults. So that's about, and I don't have a question actually. I'm just happy to share, and I'm curious, and I'm happy to meet you all.
Thank you, Heidi. Frau Glaser, Johanna Glaser.
My name is Johanna. I come from Germany, and I'm a replacement child. My brother died in 1961, and my mother said, I had 4 children and I want to have 4 children again. And so it was Johann. My name is Johanna. For me, it's very emotional because never before I've seen so many replacement childs on one place. It's a very emotional feeling for me. I think for me, it was a very lonely path. I have much time in therapy, but the doctor said it can't be a problem for you, the death of your brother, because you were not born at this time. And so it's a very lonely path until now, I think.
Thank you, Anna. Lisette.
Hello, everyone. It's an absolute honour to be here. And thank you, Judy, for inviting me to join today. I found out that I've always known that I'm a replacement child, but I didn't find out the ramifications of it until about 6 years ago, rather, after my mum died. And I went to therapy, and I discovered just exactly what that meant for me, which basically has been completely transformative. I meant to say I'm from the UK, I'm in England. And my journey led me to Judy and Judy's book. And since then, it's, like I say, my life is completely transformed. I'm now writing my own memoir. At the time I thought, this is great, I know exactly what I want to write, and I got so far and then I completely stopped and realized actually the journey has been the last 6 years. So I found writing about it has been completely cathartic, and I'm still in the process, but I'm nearly finished. And as far as the forum today, I feel that I haven't got a question, but I am just so fascinated with everybody's journey, because our experience, although it's all the same, what connects us, everyone's journey is so unique, and I'm just fascinated to hear everyone's story.
Thank you, Lisette. Barbara Jaffe.
Hello, everybody. I'm Barbara Jaffe. I'm from Los Angeles, California, where it's almost 10:30 in the morning. And I am so grateful to be here. I started my journey being a replacement child before I really knew it. My brother, who was born before me, died of meningitis when he was about 2. My mother would tell me she only wanted 2 children, and because he died, I was born. I have an older brother who's about 7 years older, so we had a very different experience. When my mother was grieving, the doctor came to pay her a visit at home and slapped her across the face and told her to get on with her life and have another child. And then I was born 13 months later. Clearly, she never recovered. And I didn't quite know my journey of why I had such low self-esteem, self-confidence, and but I know that I needed to find that. So I was on a quest, and it wasn't until really I started writing my own memoir, When Will I Be Good Enough? A Replacement Child's Journey to Healing. I started that in 2012. It was published in 2017, and it was really transformative. And during that process, I read Rita's book, I read Judy's book, and everything I could read on replacement children. I said, wow, I think that's me. And to see everybody here who have the same kinds of issues and interests just make me feel wonderful. And I think the question I would say is, what are the ways that you have worked toward wholeness as a replacement child or with issues of being a replacement child? And again, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Christina.
Thank you, Barbara. Fantastic. Who is next? Caroline.
I'm Caroline, and I'm in England. I was born 18 months after my brother died of appendicitis when he was nearly 3. My way out of it has been art. I told myself lots of lies about why relating was so difficult, and it was always couched in terms of men don't like creative women. And it wasn't to do with my secret hatred of my hidden rival brother, who always got the attention. I guess my question is a cultural one. I'm really fascinated by so many of us are women replacing boys, girls replacing boys. I know there are 3 men here today, and that's lovely. But the main interest seems to come from women. And I feel as an artist, it's as if I'm faced with my brother in the whole culture, because it's always a boy's story. And I feel very on the margins. I've recently had a breakthrough with a group of women promoting my work, but in the ordinary art world, it's been closed doors, closed doors, closed doors. That's my question.
Okay. And here are all the women. Thank you. Anina.
Yes, hello, I'm Anina. I'm in Switzerland. I'm a psychotherapist as well. Thank you, Christina, for inviting me to this forum. Yeah, my path in my personal life and my personal issues, and I always kind of thought, well, it's just me, and I didn't really have the background that I only have recently, that actually, you know, it might have to do with this replacement child issue. So my mom was forced to have an abortion when she was very young, and as soon as she more or less got over that, she wanted to quickly get married for real and have a child. And parallel, I have an aunt who also had an abortion for other reasons. So I kind of didn't put that together for a while, but it definitely fits. It's interesting what you just said, Caroline, about women after boys, because of course nobody knows about this abortion, but my mom was always sure that would have been a boy. So that made me think. I don't have a specific question today. I was just really curious and also hungry to share stories, and of course also from a work perspective as well as from a personal perspective. There's a lot to learn and share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kenneth.
Thanks, Christina. It's great to be here with you all today. My name is Kenneth Kovacs. I am in Baltimore, in the US, just north of Washington, DC. And I'm a Presbyterian pastor, and I'm also a diploma candidate at the Jung Institute in Zurich. I was born 3 months after the death of my maternal grandfather. And so my mother experienced the death of her father, to whom she was very close, while she was carrying me. And so I was born into a household that was carrying a lot of grief. And I was very close to my maternal grandmother, who lost her husband 3 months before I was born. And so I knew that experience had a huge impact upon my development as a person and also professionally as well. But it was only after taking Christina's seminar last October at the Institute, and then again in the winter, that I really found myself getting very dizzy during the seminar, because I realized just how powerful that experience was for me, and to kind of put a name to this condition, or to this scenario in my own development. And so since then, I've become extremely fascinated with this whole topic and issue, and not only how it impacts me personally, but also the people that I know, and also people that I work with. So I'm incredibly grateful for Christina's book as well too. I don't have a question per se, like others. I'm just hungry and curious and grateful to be here, and eager to learn a lot. So thanks.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Robert, I see you next.
Hello, everyone. And I'm Robert, and I'm speaking from England, near Oxford. And I'm very pleased indeed to be part of this group. I feel slightly bogus in that, but I'm very grateful to Prophecy in particular for mentioning adoption, because I was adopted. I was adopted at 3 months during the Second World War, and I was adopted by a woman who had had a couple of miscarriages within the past couple of years before she adopted me. So I feel that in a way I was a displacement child rather than a replacement child initially. And then she got pregnant, my adoptive mother, and a brother was born two years later. So it seemed that I was replaced. I always knew that I had a sort of responsible function to perform, but I didn't know what it was. And that latterly has seemed to be the sort of state of mind that I most hate: feeling responsible and at the same time not understanding what the task is. And I think I've come through to recognizing this as a traumatic state for me that goes right back to childhood. So thank you very much. I haven't really got a question, but I'm very pleased to be part of this group, though, as I say, I don't quite feel that I'm replacement, essentially.
Yeah. Thank you, Robert. And I'm sure, Andrea, you are pleased to hear that, because in your book, in your article, you speak about the displacement child. This is really extraordinary. Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
And could I say
Yes.
about that also, that I was fascinated by what he was saying. Sorry, I forgot your name.
Robert.
Robert was what you were saying, because you know, we always think in terms of replacement children as individuals who replace someone who had died before us. But you were suggesting a different perspective in the sense in relating to the brother who was born 2 years after you, and that you had been replaced by him, not by someone who had died before you, but by someone who was born after you. And that is an entirely different, almost the opposite, the turning around, 180 degrees what we usually, but of course it makes a lot of sense to me that someone could feel that is being replaced by a younger brother or sister. So thanks for that. Yeah.
Thank you for intervening right away. Carol, would you like to say who you are and
well, yes, thank you so much. This is really fascinating to me. I'm Carol Joyce. I'm a psychotherapist and a singer, and I live in New York City, but by COVID, I've been bumped up into the country in Columbia County, where I'm now living my life. And I've come to this through my friend Rita. My practice is primarily based in the city for many years. And actually, one of the chapters in the book is it's about my brother, who was a replacement child for twins who died, and one right after the other. So this interested me greatly. And also, Judy, my late husband, covered the story of the fire in your house and the plane going down. He talked about it constantly. So I felt like I had this tie in some way with you and with Rita. These aspects like this needs to be focused on. And I have a question because I'm really interested in this whole grief of this COVID, this international grief, and how that, is anyone doing any writing on that? And has there been anybody who's come forward like a replacement for this entire displacement that is going on in so many lives? And how almost impossible it is to fill that. And I don't know where even that's even coming from, but anyway, that's what it just came up here, and I want to thank you because it helped with a recent client that I was working with who was worried about his older son, who said he's not there. He said we've always felt that he's not there. So I gave him a copy of your book, Rita, and within 2 weeks, this young man has a new job. He didn't even speak to, it was the father I'm working with, and the young man began to come to life. The energy got lifted some, and he began to come to life. So it's a wonderful, wonderful concept, and I'm very happy to meet all of you. It's wonderful to be pulled into this forum. And I work with a lot of women, actually, a lot of young professional women who are in this phase of life where they want to have children. The whole issue of miscarriage, abortion, all of that comes up. So this is very crucial. Yeah. And I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
All of you from all over the world. It's really fun.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Morgan.
Hey, good evening. My name is Morgan Marty. I'm a training analyst in Switzerland at the Institute in Zurich. And I'm exploring the thematics of the replacement child. My mother had a miscarriage before me, but yeah, I'm just here to sort of explore this reality and see how all of you have lived through it and what's your experience, and see whether or how it resonates with my own story. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Morgan. Maria Magdalena.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to participate to the forum, Christina. I guess I heard the story of all of you. Thank you for sharing. I'm here because I heard your lecture at the Institute in the winter, and it really broadened my mind, how the concept made sense to me for something that maybe I've been sort of searching for many, many years. I thought it had started with when I knew that my mother was adopted. Then I had many dreams about, ghosts and I know different images. And I think I'm in the process of finding out if I am a replacement child. I always thought I was in the search because of the story of my brother and my mother. But I did many years of family constellation system therapy here in Argentina, and I was always very struck of the impact that it had in the family system when somebody that belonged to the system was forgotten or excluded. So when I heard your lecture then in the winter, I'm still processing and, as I said, putting things together. And so it really makes sense to me how what sometimes we experience in the consulting room as, as the presence of something or someone that we can't completely name, and how this speaks of how this shadow is still living, not only in the patient, but maybe sometimes inside of us, and we don't know it, and how this gets consolidated in the process. So that really, really strikes me. And I think I'm here to continue learning, and I was wondering if someone had more experience. I am very interested in finding out how finding our own individual rituals to make room for the excluded person, be it a sibling or maybe another family member, because I like your idea, Christina, that it can also be a role that we are replacing and we don't know it. So how to find out which is this family member from our ancestral tree that is calling our attention. So I have actually more questions than answers, because to me, this is really a mystery, why this secret in this generation, why this family member, when is it the right time to speak about this story that was not allowed to speak, maybe not only in a generation before, but maybe in this family member, and why is the role of this family member now to speak about, the unspoken. I wrote my thesis on secrets, and I'm realizing now that maybe it was very unconscious that, this was already boiling inside myself. So the issue of rituals is very important. I did my own ritual with my 2 dead siblings. And I was wondering if we can take this also as a healing part. I learned also from other analysants that use them as an instrument of healing. And maybe my very personal question or Unruhigkeit, I don't know how to translate it, is what happens also in the system when an abortion is made or a miscarriage is made and this person doesn't find a proper burial. If this, if somebody has experience on this, or is there anything that we can do to repair this? And well, I think that's more or less, I feel very connected with everything that somebody said, but I don't want to take more time. So thank you very much, Christina. It's really a gift to be here.
Thank you, Maria. Maybe I translate. The Unruhigkeit is like kind of restlessness.
Restlessness, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Egle. Minelgeite.
Hello, everybody. It's really emotionally touching to be here and see you, everybody here. I am Egle. I am from Lithuania, and I am myself replacement child and also Jungian analyst. And first, I get in touch with this topic of replacement child during the seminar guided by Christina several years ago. And listening about this replacement condition, I suddenly catch that, oh, it so resembles my life. But and I remember that I asked Christina, could it be that I was not born after some miscarriage or abortion, but nevertheless I am a replacement child. I feel this, and my story was that I at the age of 8, I lost my mother and I became a replacement child. I replaced my own mother for my grandmother. And she lost the only child, and I was replacing my mother for my grandmother. You know, during our training program, we have many hours to spend in psychoanalysis. And at that time, when I first came with this replacement child condition during seminar, I was already for several years in therapy. But at this time, something changed totally. And I began to review all my life. And I found that it's very, from this point of view, I reestablish my story and begin to revive some aspects of me, what I couldn't do during my therapy. It was amazing. And also I'm very grateful for Christina's book also, because I was reading it page after page, and it also it was healing. It had a healing effect on me also. And now working with my clients also, I can be very sensitive for this replacement condition in their stories. And sometimes, you know, it's very hard to catch it, because often this replacement condition is like under silence, and it's very hard to touch to it. But now I feel that I can be very sensitive to this. So I'm very grateful for being here, and for I have no questions, just hearing your stories. It's very really emotional, touching, and fulfilling me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Egle from Lithuania.
Yes, I'm from Lithuania.
Thank you. Meltem, and then Ariel. Okay.
Thank you very much, Christina, for inviting me. This is an honor to be here, really. And I was just thinking why I am here. I'm here for myself, I guess, mostly. I'm actually from Istanbul, from Turkey. I live in the UK, in Birmingham, I am. I'm a counselor and development psychologist, and I research around perinatal loss and attachment before, and that was due to actually my own experience of loss, my first stillborn baby. And then my daughter is probably the possibility of replaced child. I'm the mother of a replaced possibly child. I don't know, I'm not sure. Because my focus was on my research there also, my question, I guess, there too. And with the reason I am here too, I am continuing bonds with my experience. I'm continuing having that experience, because that baby is not exist anymore, and I have my child. I hope with my knowledge, attachment, my research, try not to replace her, although I find myself I am a replaced child. When I attended your training, I realized I was like, replaces my father. It wasn't a loss, but like Gladys, I think, mentioned, my family expected a boy, and I remember not being disappointed not being a boy for some time. It's not an issue anymore, but so probably I am on all of those a little bit. I research around that. I write, but then I experienced my own, realized I was a replaced child, and then I really tried so hard, maybe not to replace my daughter, but then that emotions, I needed to continue with that child, my experience, and the research things I wrote. Perhaps today I'm here because of that, I think. So my question is, this is a different experience. It's not like other people experiencing. So that makes everything different. Your parenting, your relationship with others, it makes it different. So this makes it similar. Now everyone is in that, understands you. You feel understood. So my question is how that continuing bonds is possible. and this novel experience is shared and understood both ways.
Yes. Thank you, Malcolm, and thank you for bringing that experience from the mother's perspective, from the parent's perspective. That's so important. Ariel, would you like to present
Sure.
yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Ariel. I'm Rita's daughter. I apologize, I'm not going to be able to stay on very long today, but it's been really amazing watching my mother go through this journey over the past few years and learning that a lot of the things that she went through are not, I don't want to say not unique, because I think that underplays a lot, but to hear that she's not alone and to hear everybody's stories are just absolutely amazing. And I've had the experience over the last few years of looking around and, you know, learning, meeting all of these other people and other people in my life who it turns out are replacement children who have these very similar experiences. And I just think it's wonderful that you've built this community. So thank you all for sharing your stories.
Thank you, Ariel. And thank you all. I'm touched now because there is such deep trust and also gentleness in how we can listen to each other's experiences and how you are sharing what was probably the most cataclysmic experience on your life journey. So I wish to thank you very, very, very much. Maybe Judy, could you say something about understanding? Because
well, I wanted to say that first of all, I can't help being just so touched by everybody. It's hard to stand back from that. I wanted to say there was one question that came in to me before this, talking about whether we think that, and this was a question, I guess, for everybody, whether we think it's necessary for counselors and therapists to be trained specifically to treat replacement children. And I know what Christina thinks, but I'm wondering, people that are counselors and therapists and even, replacement children themselves, if they feel that that's something that they either need or, think is important. I can just share that, over the years, I've had several different therapists and no one ever broached this with me. In fact, I discovered it myself. So it wasn't through any therapy or counseling. And I think that for me, that if those therapists had been aware of this and asked the right questions and talked to me more deeply about this, it would have made a big difference in my life. So I'm just wondering that, with throwing that out to everybody, if anybody could comment on that, that would, I think, be great. Anybody?
I was just going to say that I think that therapists really need to start with what was the atmosphere in your house when you were born? What was happening even a little bit before you were born? What kind of atmosphere did you come in? Because the parents that have had a child and everything was fine, they are fine. And then that child dies and they have another child, it's not going to be the same parents. And nobody seems to ask that in therapy, basically. I mean, that seems to be lacking, and it's so important. Like, what were your parents like when you came in? What were they grieving? What was happening? So,
thank you. And I see three who are wanting to speak to this. This is wonderful. I go just in sequence: Barbara, Anina, and Meltem, and Andrea.
And Erica.
Thank
and
you.
Erica. Okay, and put your hands up.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Judy. That was a really important question. I think for me, it would have saved me countless hours along my journey with therapy. And in fact, after I wrote my book, my therapist read it and really was very grateful that he had that information. And I think it would have helped me in so many ways. My husband is a psychiatrist, and it was very beneficial for him to have this information that he didn't know before. So this forum and these kinds of conversations and our books and research need to get out there more and more, because more people that read our stories say, I didn't realize I was a replacement child. And, but the bottom line is it would have saved me many, many years.
Thank you. Anina?
Yeah, I made the experience that one of my specialities in working is as a bereavement counselor, and that after having read now about the replacement child and put it into this context, I have the feeling that there are many things that have fortunately been addressed, but often on the other angle, because we, from the position of a replacement child, we don't really have memories, at least not from when we were born into such a situation, or a depressive or a grieving parent. It's only down the line. And I think that's also an interesting point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Melton?
Hi, you can hear me. Interesting, because I'm an adult attachment interview coder. In that interview, you ask losses and check if the person are resolved with loss. But there's no, although there is a question about miscarriage or any loss, later in the interview, there's an imagination. Imagine if the person doesn't have a child, if they imagine is a parent, there's that kind of question, but there is no at the very beginning checking the loss. And that's really important, because there is an unresolved status of mind can be just given to the losses, how the person talks about those losses. Are they resolved or unresolved? This really made me think. I used that interview technique. It should be at the very beginning included there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Erica and Andrea.
Hello. So that's not me over there, but that's okay. I found, listen to all of you, yet another thing that we all have in common. It is absolutely amazing that everybody chose a helping profession. And you see that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that not only the psychoanalysts have to know about it, but also us physicians. I'm a pediatrician. Mm-hmm. And in my experience, unfortunately, I have had many parents who, well, maybe not very many, but enough, that lost a child and they immediately had another one. Was I able to counsel them myself? Was I able to be supportive of them? I want to think that I did, but now I know this so much more. Because before, you know, I thought I'm only a second generation, a child of Holocaust survivor with many, many, you know, all our issues. But now, after I met Rita and she introduced me to you, I know that I'm also a replacement child. And I think it would be important for physicians to know how to approach this issue. And just very quickly to respond to Carol, who asked about anybody doing anything with COVID. I'm doing a research now, a study about the children's experience, 6 to 17-year-old, during the pandemic, not expressed verbally though, expressed through drawings. So if anybody's interested, you have children, you know of any kids who want to participate, all they have to do is send drawings and I would send you all the information. Some of the drawings I've got were absolutely heartbreaking. So we want to help them. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Andrea.
Yes, hello. Well, first of all, I've noticed there are people in the forum who haven't introduced themselves or haven't asked questions. including my friend Professor Coles, who I see is among us. Anyway, you can do that later, but
okay.
Briefly, a couple of things. One, in relation to what has just been said, I don't know if there are more replacement children proportionally in the helping professions, but they certainly may be in your forum, but that's neither here nor there in terms of the general population. But it would be an interesting research to make, I think, because people in the helping professions are among those who consciously or unconsciously have fantasies of saving and rescuing the world and ultimately rescuing themselves. And so if people have suffered from what I think is really at the core of the replacement child condition, which is a difficulty in coming to terms with one's own identity, then it would make sense that people would try to find their own identity, maybe by trying to help others to find theirs. I have a question which I've asked myself a number of times when thinking about replacement children, and I've never found a proper answer, probably because there isn't really one, but if anybody can come with a convincing one, I would be very grateful. And the question is this: whether, going back to the idea that at the core of replacement of that condition, there is a difficulty in coming to terms with one's identity. The question is whether a replacement child feels that he or she is not himself or herself, or that one is actually someone else. And which of the two? Maybe both, but I think there is a difference between the two. In fact, my paper on replacement children originally had the title, what was it? On being someone else. And then the editor of the journal where I originally published in the United States questioned that and said, well, do you mean being someone else or not being yourself? And as I couldn't answer the question many years ago when the paper was published, I decided to remove that bit from the title. But I think the problem is still one to be at least a question to be asked. My last point is one about which I was somewhat critical of some writers, including Christina's, about the definition of child replacement. And my worry was that by extending too much that definition, then the whole concept would be diluted and would lose some of its importance. So maybe that's something else that people want to consider, you know, whether where are the limits, where are the conditions in order to describe someone as being, or oneself as being a replacement child. And I think that is an important question, you know, to define in a sense our field, rather than just extending it, in my mind, too wide.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea.
All right.
I would like to answer you, but you are right. Leslie Shasha, if she's with us, I only see her photo. Are you with us, Leslie? I only see her. Do you see somebody else who's not introduced himself? Andrea, you mentioned you seeing a person and...
Yeah, Prophecy.
Prophecy?
Yeah.
Prophecy has... would you like to speak?
Well, just to say, Andrea, I did talk, but perhaps you weren't present when I did talk, but it's good to see you, because Andrea and I knew each other, what, 40 years ago? We went to a conference somewhere, I seem to remember. And you got me rather drunk.
Yeah, I can't remember that bit.
But anyway, be that as it may, I really just wanted to take the question about, you know, therapists not having been aware of the problem of being born after a dead baby. But I think one's got to remember one's culture, because one of the things that I've been so moved by over the years I've been working is how we're all developing and we're learning the whole time. So I think it's really important to see how, due to your work, Christina, and others, we are beginning to extend our concepts. And I just was reminded that Nabokov, who as a writer I quite admire and rather dislike as well. But anyway, he wrote his autobiography. And the autobiography, Speak Memory, begins with the following phrase: "The cradle rocks above the abyss." And that's his opening phrase. And it's only when you read his biography do you know that actually he was a replacement baby born 1 year after his dead brother. He never admits it, he never refers to it. And, you know, that's part of the culture. You know, when he was born, nobody thought about that. So that was just the only point I really wanted to make.
Thank you, Prophecy. I would like to say two short things. Or one, to pick up Andrea on extending the concept. And I am definitely extending the concept. And when I hear you saying the different kind of circumstances which can lead you to recognize yourself in what I consider an existential condition. It's an existential condition. The beginning of my definition starts when death and life meet. Like what you just said, Prophecy, with Nabokov's title, yes? There is something very existential about this, that an experience of life and an experience of death are that close together and enmeshed and maybe give cause to projections. So that concept has been extended by David Rosen and Leon Arnisfeld and Bernstein and others as well. But I do hear you, Andrea, and I do not wish to water it down. If I was capable of expressing it in a diagram, I would have something that would go like in widening circles or in deepening layers, that there are criteria which can help us understand and yes, see maybe a replacement child condition, even if it's not a child expressly conceived to replace one that has died. So I kind of wish to leave it to the person themselves to see whether the criteria like identity, like grief, like guilt, having survived and the other hasn't, or like what we haven't mentioned yet, the relational difficulties that can ensue from that, whether that fits. But now I want to give others the floor. I see Maria and Judy raising their hands. So Maria.
Yes, I liked your question, Andrea, when you said how do we distinguish when we feel we are somebody else and that we are not ourselves. One of the things that it raises my question now is how is it this mystery that something inside of us knows that we are not ourselves, that we are in a way representing or living out the unlived life of somebody that came before us. This is something that, you know, really strikes me. And one of the things that I saw when we did the family constellation is the cost when we are not standing on our own place. For example, if we are the third kid, and we were told that we are the second because we don't know about the first death, how this not being standing on our own place has a consequence that somehow we cannot unfold and we cannot grow up. So how powerful it is when we move from the second place to the third, and then something starts to feel, I don't know, I've seen people feeling that they needed to raise their skin, like there is someone inside of them that they need, you know, to take out. But especially this this knowing inside of us that we are somebody else and that we are not still ourselves. This is something that strikes me, and it's a question. I mean, I don't have an answer for that, but I find it amazing how in our core there is always something that knows that we are still not ourselves. I don't know. That's.
Yeah. Thank you. Judy, you wanted to.
Yeah, you know, that brought up a whole other thing about, you know, placement in the family that you were talking about, Maria. And I actually remember when I thought I was the second one in the family, and I heard my mother say that she had 3 children. And what a shock that was to me. What do you mean 3 children? I had no idea. You know, this was when I was a kid. And she didn't say it to me. She said it to, you know, I overheard her talking about it. But that's, you know, certainly something that I think we go through. What I wanted to say, since I know we're coming down to the time here, and when we started talking about, when Andrea started talking about identity, that's something that I know that I've struggled with my whole life, is identity. And I think for a period of time, I felt like maybe I was, you know, my sister reincarnated. You know, I had that feeling for a little while. And I, you know, I even write about that in my book. But what I was going to ask is what we would think about maybe having, you know, different topics for different get-togethers of ours. You know, maybe we have, you know, one of these webinars that just discusses identity, or, you know, other things that we could identify. And I just wanted to open that up and see what you think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just wanted to say one thing. I think also your birth followed the death of a sister. Mine followed the death of a brother. And I think that it would be interesting to talk about that also. What, you know, I mean, is it easier to kind of identify with the same sex and say, well, you know, am I really this other person? Did I reincarnate into this body because this was a girl? With a boy, I felt very separated. I didn't feel that, you know, that I had his identity or wanted to take on his identity, and kind of rebelled because he was like the perfect kind of saint. So I didn't feel that we were connected. I felt very different to begin with. So I think that's a whole other, you know, ball game there too.
Yeah, thank you. It seems as if the identity theme, how many people would put thumbs up, would be something we could discuss in another.
Oh,
yes,
definitely.
Oh, good. Good. That is, I think that really would be worthwhile to go in depth into it. I haven't seen how the time has gone by. I'm so fascinated by the group, by all of you, that it's, I hardly saw how the time went. I wanted to say something on being someone else, identity, and somebody else's place. I wanted to be the boy that was lost. I was a tomboy before. I missed my brother. I looked for my brother in mates, in partners to begin with. I got wiser with time, thank God. But to get towards my identity, I had to kind of meet that brother that I was carrying with me in order not to miss him so much. So I can relate, Andrea, somehow to both what you're saying. I had an identity question, and it took me a long time to assume me. I am me, just me, not somebody else. And I had this someone else within me. However, what I wanted to say is I find it so extraordinary. All of us have suffered, I think, who have had this experience and have had people in the family, members of the family have this experience. So I have respect and recognition for this suffering, because it is that which pushed me forward towards seeking to become myself. Okay, So I validate that, and I know Johanna said it is a lonely path, and it is, and I can still have dreams or nightmares or difficult issues of that kind related, but something in us, Maria, pushes us to want to become ourselves. And you have raised your hand again, and who else has raised their hand? That's Johanna. Yes. May I go to Johanna, Maria? Because Johanna hasn't spoken, and then I come to you.
Yes, that's my old hand. I don't know how to.
Okay, Johanna, and yes, Meltem, I see you.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay. For me, I didn't feel I'm someone else, and I didn't feel I'm not myself. There was no feeling for me. It was just a kind of function. But neither I'm someone else and nor I'm not myself. There was nothing. It was a big
nothingness. Yes.
Oh, I can't imagine how I survived this circumstances. I don't know how I'm arrived in the presence. There was a big nothing.
I think we will explore once more identity really in depth in another meeting. Meltem.
Oh, it's just that something resonated with me. It's a really interesting question. How do we know? But this difficulty made me in many ways, find this group, meet you. So I always think this experience made me a very total different person. I could be someone else totally also if I hadn't experienced a stillbirth myself. So that experience has changed and put me in different kind of people thinking, and also start asking different questions for I'm learning the terms in individuation or finding myself, my wholeness. So there is a saying, Rumi says, there's a very well-known clerk, but Kohen, I like the Kohen version of that. It says there's a crack in everything. This is where how the light gets in. So I guess this is also, but I have no idea, how do we know which one is us and which one it isn't? Maybe that's always continuous again. That's all I wanted to share.
Yes, thank you. Is there one more question before we maybe go, before we have to conclude this first meeting? Yes, Gladys.
Well, I just wanted to know what you think about, because I'm thinking, whose desires do we try to respond to in our lives? In the beginning, we do respond to our parents. Afterwards, as we grow up, and if we can evolve, we start to find our own desires and we're going to please them. And that is a growth and the coming out from being the replacement, because we become not anymore the replacement for others. We start to look for our own desires, and that is a very big jump to health and happiness. Okay, I mean, it has to do with other things several of you said, but I think that's very important.
Yes, thank you. Patty, I had not seen you. Thank you so much. And Lisette.
This is just sort of, I guess it's not an aside because it's very important to me, but I wanted to ask a question if anybody else that we've heard of. Not only am I a replacement child that I've just learned over the past few years, however, my oldest son is a replacement child as well. He's had a rather troubled time, and he's way grown, of course, now, but he too, I was the mother of I was a replacement child, and then I was the mother of a replacement child. And it's so, I was wondering if there's anybody who's ever had any experience with that particular, I'm going to call it a phenomena because it feels that way sometimes.
Yes. I have seen cases where it went through the families.
Really?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, and I think we will go into that. Now we have echo, so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patty. Question noted for next time. Lisette wanted to say something.
Oh, there we go. Yes, just what Gladys said really resonated with me, actually, as far as being, you know, your role. I don't know if I said, but I was born after my brother died at 10 months old. I was born 2 years after him. He died very suddenly. And my role as I grew up was very, to please my mum and my mum and dad. And I'm one of 4, and I was treated very differently. I was not conscious of replacing anybody else at that time or feeling like I wasn't myself, but I knew that I was something very different, something that I had a role to fulfill. And so finding out for me that I was a replacement child, really, I only was able to find myself after my mother died. So yes, my role was completely looking after her most of my life. So that was, yeah, that was something which my identity has been a huge thing for me to discover in the last few years. And I am now studying to be a counsellor. So yes, it seems like there seems to be a common theme here, how we all find that journey, which is quite interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisette. I think we are coming slowly to the end, even though I feel in my heart I could go on for quite a while. And I think we have taken, Maria, would you like to say something?
Yes, I wanted to ask Christina and everybody if somebody would be interested that we can address the issue of the anniversary syndrome, because I've seen many people being diagnosed with depression at a certain time of the year. And actually what we are unconsciously doing is mourning this unmourned person. And I think this is very tricky because many, I don't know, my experience was I was under medication. And I wish I would have known I was, you know, going through an anniversary syndrome. So I think this is something that if people are also interested and how to distinguish when we are depressed than when we are mourning or we are remembering somebody who calls our attention from the family system. That's, I don't know who said something and then something pumped up, but thank you everybody for the richness of your sharing.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Maria. Noted anniversary syndrome. I don't know whether it's correct to say this today, but for me, this is a special day today. It's actually the birthday of my brother 67 years ago. So I thank you all very, very much for the sharing, for sharing your understanding. This is the purpose. This is our mission in the forum. To get understanding and to share the understanding, to get to the diagnosis, because then from that can follow the compassionate understanding of the treatment steps needed to come towards wholeness. Who said wholeness is another issue? I think we have already 3 subjects raised for further meetings. One word from all of you. Would you like to say goodbye with one word? Shall we make one more round to say goodbye? I say thank you. It has been wonderful.
Gratitude. Gratitude.
Wonderful.
Yeah, the same.
Thank you.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Community.
Community, soulmates, and gratitude. Thank you.
Understanding.
Belonging.
Discovery.
Connection.
Sharing. Honored.
Warm emotion. Gratitude.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good journey. Thank you all. We shall meet again.
It was
We
wonderful.
will send out
Stay safe.
an invite.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.